Paddy, thank you for that great introduction. So this evening, guys, I'm delighted to have been invited here, as are all my esteemed colleagues. And I suppose really for me tonight, what I'm going to try and do is moderate to get something interesting, insightful out of these three individuals here on the seat beside me. And I really want something for you to take away from this evening. So I'm going to start off with some quick-fire round questions. So I'm going to ask, Jean, starting out in your career today, what do you think is more important, work experience or education?
I think for BT, it's very much both. So for some of our positions, it's very much a degree or a master's, the more engineering roles, and for other operational roles, it's more work experience, attitude, and work ethic.
Okay, great. And Anna, maybe you might tell us at KPMG, what are your thoughts around having a master's or an MBA?
Certainly in KPMG, I think it's really important. I mean, this week we're actually doing our graduate recruitment, this week and next week, and we're actually taking on board 270 young, eager graduates and looking to recruit them. So having a degree is really important for us. Having a master's can be important too. And if you're talking about MBAs, they usually come in a couple of years' time. And certainly I know for some of our people who've been there in the job a number of years, we do facilitate them doing MBAs if that's something they'd like. But certainly degree and master's very important.
Great, and I would definitely concur with what you've said there. I know at Microsoft we also like people to have the combination of both those experiences. Maoiliosa, I know you've spent some time abroad, so I was going to ask you, what would you say to the audience around getting work experience abroad? Is that a good thing?
Yeah, definitely. I would encourage people to go and work abroad for a while.
Okay.
In my role in business development director for Europe, I see the ecosystems in places like Berlin, Stockholm, Munich, Paris, London. Fantastic. I think if you can get some of that experience and learn a language while you're at it.
Okay. And Jean, you were in Berlin, right?
Yeah, I lived in Berlin for 3 years. So I would, if you get the opportunity, I would encourage it. Same as Maoiliosa, I would encourage you to pick up the language when you're there. And sort of what I saw was a lot of people hanging around together, the expat community, but you really need to pick up the culture and the language. And also choose a role abroad that's relevant to when you come back to Ireland to look for work. So that would be my advice.
Okay, and I know certainly for us at Microsoft, one of the things we look to try and do is often give people experiences in Ireland where they're already interacting with European counterparts and then our global organisations, and then often they'll spread off and head off to different countries, and equally sometimes we do rotations across the different countries. I'm sure that's something you guys do at KPMG as well.
Yeah, lots of travel involved in KPMG. Usually when you're qualified, you get an opportunity to go and work abroad. I know I took a year off. When I went down to Australia, I probably did a little bit more play rather than working too hard. But I would encourage people when they go away to use it as an opportunity to step up in your career, actually learn new skills, and then do come back to Ireland. But certainly it's not just all about going away and staying away for years. It's about taking up job opportunities that give you the opportunity to travel while you're in them. And certainly that's what we tend to do in KPMG a lot.
Great. And guys, look, I think for Ireland, we all know there's some infrastructural improvements that are needed in the country, and I'm going to prompt three of them and maybe have your input on them. I mean, I think certainly for anybody sitting in the audience today, you'll recognise that we need to do more work in education, particularly, in the engineering STEM subjects. We need to do more with accommodation, and we need to also do more in the space of, what's my third one?
Broadband.
So broadband, exactly. So maybe I might go to each of you, if you don't mind, seeing as you maybe talk a little bit about broadband, Jean.
So BT employs over 100,000 people globally, so we have one of the highest levels of teleworking in Europe. So flexible working is very important to us, and directly linked to that is broadband speeds. So if you look at Ireland, there's a digital divide between rural and urban, and there needs to be faster speeds in the Republic of Ireland to encourage more flexible working, for people to upload and download data at faster speeds, and also for people to set up businesses from Ireland and be able to have an e-commerce company, be able to sell globally. I think it's important to remember that we're a global nation, and we need the infrastructure in terms of broadband to go with that.
And do you think there's enough happening at the moment in that space, or are we making progress?
We have about 700,000 people who don't have access to next generation broadband, and I know the government are rolling out the National Broadband Plan, due to be rolled out next year. So hopefully we'll see a reduction in the digital divide.
Okay, great, thanks. Maybe on the accommodation, would you like to talk a little bit about accommodation?
Yeah, I think accommodation is going to be the big issue here for the next 5 years. I mean, you can't pick up a paper now and see that. But I see, for example, in Berlin, there was a lot of very cheap accommodation. Same in San Francisco. So a lot of startups came in there because, you know, for engineers and people working in the startups who weren't getting relatively well paid, there was cheap accommodation available. And I think it's going to become more and more of a barrier for startups here. Yeah. So I'd be concerned about that. But what you do see then is on the flip side is the accommodation prices start to rise when these cities get very busy. Yeah. So, but I think we're going to have to deal with that.
On. Yeah, actually, I know, I'm sure there's some in the audience tonight, so I've been working with the team in a group of Enactus, and so they were involved in UCD in the Generation Accommodation Project. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a really interesting piece of work, but it's really going to try and solve that problem. But I think all of them, from speaking to those individuals in UCD, would say they're only just, you know, really at the tip of the iceberg work that needs to be done. Actually, it's something broader that needs to happen as well. Okay, and then maybe Anna, do you want to talk about education?
Yes, certainly. You mentioned UCD there. I was out giving a lecture there recently, and the headline on the college news was accommodation crisis. Yeah. But just turning to another point, which is education related, that is an area that I'm concerned about at the moment. Certainly, I think over the last number of years, investment in education has probably suffered, and it's an area that we need to really, really focus heavily on. So at third level, I get a little bit concerned when I see our colleges and our universities slipping down the rankings, and I'm really, really keen that we do take it very, very seriously over the next couple of years and enhance the investment in education. And it's not just at third level. I was looking at my notes there for a moment because John Collison was on the stage earlier today, and he said, you can't build furniture without knowing how to do woodwork, or something along those lines. What I'm really concerned about is it's really important that people can develop apps, develop web pages, participate in the technological, you know, the technology scene that we're seeing, you know, here in Ireland. But they can't do that unless they can code. So certainly I'd like to see kids at a younger age, and I know Coder Dojo are doing a super job, but primary school and secondary school level, I think it is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if for tonight it is about you guys, but my ask to you is to, you know, bring that influence that you have back to the colleges too, and share with them, you know, the experiences that you have in getting involved in coding and everything. We really want to get that to the children in primary schools and secondary schools, even before it gets to third level. So yeah, and I can see some nodding heads, so I think people are definitely in agreement for sure. And I think certainly then, you know, kind of the other pieces, I think, you know, I suppose as we move into this new generation and they're all sitting looking at us tonight, you know, I think work is going to look different for these individuals. They bring, you know, a disruptive mindset, which I think we really need in every business that we work in. They bring a very different perspective. Talk to me a little bit about the millennial generation and what you think in particular, how we're going to need to have different workplaces for them in the future.
Want to kick off? I think Generation Y are more independent, they want more flexibility, they want a work-life balance, and just the old chestnut, there's no such thing as a job for life anymore, and they're not following a linear career path, and I think employers need to think about retention, they need to think about churn, they need to think about benefits, and they need to think about career options at an earlier stage when those millennials join the organisation and show that people can progress quicker than in the past. So it can be a challenge for some organisations that are used to the linear.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're working very differently nowadays, and I know certainly for us at Microsoft, we're building a new campus at the moment, and part of that investment of 134 million has been getting our Gen Y involved. What would they like the modern office to look like? And that has really, for us, I think, helped us to raise our game in what we're bringing to the office and how that will look in the future. Either of you, anything else you want to add?
Yes, certainly. I'm happy to add to that. I mean, each year we take in just under 300 grads, so we're the biggest graduate recruitment. We're the biggest graduate recruiter in the country each year, and we certainly see the fast pace of change at which our graduates are demanding of us. Yeah. So the guys who start with us, you guys are all very, very socially aware. You like to have a work-life balance. I think that's absolutely right. You demand excellence, and you should have it. You want to be worked hard. You want to learn every single day. And certainly that's superb, actually, being an employer and employing people like that who demand excellence of us and are challenged. And I know IMD say, and this is true, Irish people are the most adaptable and flexible and most globally minded. And certainly we see that with the graduates that we take on every year. And it's really important that the employer, you know, the employer is able to cope with that challenge. And certainly that's something that I love to see in the graduates that we take in, their flexibility, their adaptability, their social conscience, and their ability to work hard and play hard.
Yeah, I was going to say the play hard for me, it rings true. You know, I often think about what an environment would be like without the fun, and it would be pretty awful. So definitely I think that piece is really important in any workplace.
I think I would add, I'm really envious because I look around, just today for example, you see robotics, you see 3D, you see augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, big data, analytics. I mean, we're on the verge of akin to another industrial revolution, which is going to happen in a space of 10 years rather than 100. So the opportunities for young graduates today are phenomenal. I have a 20-year-old daughter myself, and I just think, you know, there's so much ahead of you. Your generation now, the world is your oyster, traveling all around the world. You know, the communications, working from anywhere, any location now, using electronic means. I see three young, very young people here in the audience, and I think, you know, when I think about when they're coming through as graduates, what life is going to be like, and I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Very exciting. For anyone who can't see, we have 3 children in the front row here, and I'm going to guess, are you guys 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, something like that? Okay. So, and I think, you know, just what you talked about, I mean, certainly I was reading something recently myself, and I was pretty struck by the fact that, you know, in 10 to 15 years' time, a quarter of the jobs that we do currently will no longer exist. They're going to be done, as you said, by robots. They're going to be done by software, smart software. And really, I think, you know, for me anyway, when I think about the industry that I'm in, that is scary for some of the traditionalists, but it's actually hugely exciting for you guys, you know, and I think what you bring to us is, you know, new opportunities in, you know, all of these new technologies that are coming forward. So embrace, I think it's a great one. I'm going to move us along then. So I think key things I just want to, I suppose, you know, have you think about are just the skill sets that you'd encourage the guys in the audience today to really think about. What in particular are the skill sets that you'd have them think about? And maybe we'll try and do this in a fast fire round again. So a couple of words, what are the skill sets you'd like them to think about?
Be flexible and adaptable.
Great.
I think that's critical.
Great.
I think there's 3 categories. There's develop yourself, learn how to take responsibility, become leaders. There's develop general business skills, which you can apply in any job, and then technical skills in your specific realm, and follow your passion.
Great. And Jean,
so I'm going to say communications, I'm going to say social intelligence, ability to collaborate, and critical thinking, and try and think of value add where technology can't add value. Okay,
great. Guys, we're just about out of time, so I'm going to round up with one last question for the panel. And really, I suppose, what I'm interested in is, as I look out into this audience today, I certainly want to be an employer that has the opportunity to meet most of you and employ most of you at some stage in the future. No doubt, Anna, your 285 next graduates are sitting out there. So I suppose the last thing I would say is, we know we've all seen friends, family leave Ireland. For me, I'm really passionate about growing Ireland and having a future for all of you here today. I know I spoke to a number of you on the way in, and that was something very important to you too. So I'd ask each of the panel, just as a wrap-up, why Ireland? Talk to the audience. Why should they stay in Ireland?
Well, in my view, for people who like work-life balance, for people who like fun, that Ireland is an incredibly good place to work. It's an incredibly good place to build a business, but really, really importantly, it's also a really good place to live while you're doing that. Okay. So I think the work or grow a business and be able to live here, I think really, really important.
Great.
I think this is a great place to fulfill your potential. It doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter, you know, male, female, anymore here, thankfully. I still see places, plenty of places in the world where, you know, as a female, you're still restricted on what you can do. And it's about fulfilling potential here, and I think there's a huge opportunity. Having gone maybe abroad and seen other places and learned and come back, I think that's certainly what I did.
And Jean?
So I met some of our previous BT Young Scientist participants earlier on, and they told me the 3 C's, so take it from them, not me. They said community, connections, and crack.
is the reason to stay in Ireland.
Reasons, yeah.
Okay, great. And I suppose just for me, I'd wrap up by saying thank you to all the panellists. On behalf of all of the panellists, I think we appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you. For me, certainly, my final kind of thinking is, I think I already alluded to it earlier, but for me at Microsoft, we're looking for your disruptive thinking. Please bring that. You are the future, and we want nothing more than to have your insights and help us build that future. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.